Okay, so right off the bat, I'm going to tackle any initial criticisms that I'm essentially just a biased, babbling fanboy. I mean, I am a biased, babbling fanboy, but I'm going to address that in a second. What I can promise, and this is true, is that what I'm saying about this film is what I truly think. I'm not convincing myself that I like it more than I do. I'm not blinding myself to problems that I'd otherwise have. So, it's probably not going to be the most objective review in the world, but I can only tell you what I honestly think. And with all that said, I absolutely adore this film. It's the most fun I've had at the cinema in forever. So if you're wondering why I had foregrounded all of that review with this stuff about bias and fanboyism, it's because of that and this. Kick-Ass is my favourite film of all time, so I was very, very excited for Kingsman because it's Matthew Vaughn doing something that did look very similar. It's Kick-Ass for spies. It's more than that, but it has that same kind of enthusiasm, that same kind of energy, and that same kind of postmodern vibe, kind of like Scream for spies. And there are several parallels that you can draw between the two films that I don't really want to go into, but you can do that all day. It tells the story of a secret espionage agency called the Kingsman, who, when one of their members dies, is killed in action, they need to recruit a new member, and one of the veteran spies, Harry Hart, played by Colin Firth, recommends this young boy called Eggsy, who's from a troubled background, and he's a petty criminal. Harry wants to give him a chance, so he recommends him to the agency, and he has to enter into this what Mark Strong, who trains the recruits, calls the most dangerous job interview in the world, which is basically where all of these recruits train against each other in these different scenarios, because only one of them can actually become a Kingsman. A bit like Men in Black. Meanwhile, the Kingsmen are dealing with this rich theatrical megalomaniac played by Samuel Jackson, who I won't spoil his motivations for the purpose of this review. The performances are fantastic. Taron Egerton, who plays Eggsy, he's basically a newcomer. I think he's done some TV stuff, and he's in Testament of Youth, which comes out like more or less now, and he's playing a very different character. But he is brilliant because he takes a character that could have been a demeaning, unlikable stereotype and actually gives him a lot of charm, a lot of vulnerability, so that underneath his apparent irresponsibility is actually a very good-hearted person that I actually grew to really, really like. And I think Matthew Vaughn's always been good at finding people before they've hit big. Like if you look at Layer Cake, that's Daniel Craig doing a sort of Bondian role before he's James Bond. Then you have Stardust, which introduces you to Mark Strong as a bad guy. Kick-Ass has Chloe Moretz. X-Men First Class had Jennifer Lawrence in a blockbuster before she was Katniss. And I think Taron Egerton could join those ranks, and I'd be very, very, very happy for him to. But I think everyone kind of knows the person who this is all going to be focused on is Colin Firth, who is basically the hit girl of this. Because he's a character that could have been a one-note joke, in the same way the hit girl could have just been, haha, it's a girl who kills people and swears. Harry Hart could be, haha, it's Mr. Darcy in an action film. But he's so much more than that, and he has some fantastic lines. He's a brilliant character, and his relationship with Eggsy is totally engaging. And when he goes full raid mode in these action sequences, it is a joy to behold. And you could take any of the film's action sequences, and if they were in any other film, they'd be the best action sequence of that film. They'd be the highlight. Like, there's a really good car chase, there's a really good fight in a pub, there's a really good one-on-one duel towards the end, there's all of these things, a halo jump thing. But there is one that is just wow. It's a fight in a church. You get to see glimpses of it in the trailer. And I won't say much more on it, except the song choice is perfect, because it's a song that mirrors the kind of frantic, ever-escalating energy of the fight itself, and the violence in it. Yeah. There's a lot. In fact, that's one thing that is worth saying off the bat. If you don't like things like violence, swearing, this might not be for you. But if you do, then go. So the screenplay by Matthew Vaughn and Jane Goldman, who, again, bias fanboy, whatever, I love them. It's fantastic. It's filled with great one-liners, cool pop culture references, and like meta humour and all of that kind of stuff, which I really go in for. And there's some great musical choices in there. The score's quite cool because it kind of does that thing that The Guest did, where it observes how the scores for these kind of films usually work and kind of tries to tribute them, but not in a lazy kind of, oh, this is what theme music sounds like. It kind of does it in a more kind of detailed, well-observed way, tributing Bond music, this is. If I had criticism with the CGI, which is occasionally a little on the iffy side, but this isn't Bond. This isn't Bond. This isn't Mission Impossible. This doesn't have the budget to compete with them. This is purely a British financed film. I know it's distributed by Fox, but this is a British film. It doesn't have the money that some of these bigger blockbusters have. And generally the bad CGI, not even bad, the iffy CGI, didn't ever really take me out of the film. The pacing's really good, it never really lets up, and it just goes from one action scene to another without ever relenting, but there's still time for character moments. I love it. I can't hide it. This is probably the most gushing review that I'll ever do, but I can only say what I really think, and it's a 10. And it's my favourite film that I've seen in a long time. It's not me saying that it's better than, say, Birdman or Whiplash or whatever. It's me saying that it's my favourite film that I've seen in a long time, and I'm sticking with that. All I can say is please go out and support something that takes a few risks, is British, and hopefully you'll have a fraction as much of a good time as I did.